Hello. Welcome to the Falcon Paladin Hour.
Thank you so much, good sir. It is good to be here again for a Falcon Paladin hour.
It's always good to be here.
Truly is.
When is it
Spending
ever not?
time, um, maybe when one of us is very sick. I don't know.
Well, we're not really here then, are we? Like when we're really sick, we're just like, okay, well, let's not do it this week.
That's true. I guess I've been like mildly sick, and I'm like, it's not enough to cancel the podcast.
Right,
But
your
I'm feeling like bleh the whole
5 year
time, and
bout
that's
of
not.
chikungunya.
Yeah, right,
Yeah.
right, right. And that I guess that's not fun, but it's not like bad either. I guess.
Right.
Anyway, it doesn't really matter. It's good to
Yeah.
be here. Got stuff to talk about.
Yeah. I hear The Last of Us wrapped up. Do you want to jump into that first?
Yeah, let's do. So Last of Us wrapped up. They did their final episode. It was
Okay.
43 minutes. I think that includes credits, and that's like I think the shortest episode of the entire season, which is nuts.
Really? They went with a shorter episode for the finale rather than a longer one?
Yeah, and they added stuff to the show that's not in they added stuff to the story that's not in the games in that
Like
final
what?
episode. So I'm like, okay, so Joel and Ellie are going to Salt Lake City. There's going to be, the hospital scene. There's going to be all this stuff I'm expecting, right?
Uh
And it opens up with a pregnant lady running through the woods, and you're like, this is not Joel or Ellie.
huh. Well, plot twist: it is Ellie, but it's not the
Oh, it's
Ellie. It's
future.
well, no, it's the voice actress for Ellie. So it's in the
Yeah.
game. So it is Ellie, but not this timeline's Ellie. Alternate Ellie.
Cor- yeah. Correct. I mean, that's the whole thing. So anyway, so lady running through the woods, you can hear infected like screaming and doing their clicking and stuff behind her. She's running. She gets to it looks like a totally abandoned farmhouse in the middle of a farm.
Mm.
Goes inside, locks the door, goes upstairs, puts a chair under the door. She's calling out for people like, "Hey guys, are you here?" And no one's there. So it seems like it's a predetermined meeting place.
Hmm.
And she's hoping to find safety, but no one else is there. So she's like, "Ah, crap! Like I gotta defend myself here.
Right.
Plus, I'm in labor, so that's awesome."
Yeah. Good timing. Yep.
Yeah, like getting pregnant during the zombie apocalypse seems tough. It's a tough
It,
look.
are we given this is 9 months into the apocalypse? Is it 10 months into the apocalypse? Is it 2 months into the apocalypse? Do we know?
Ellie's 14 in
Okay.
2023, and 2003 is when the apocalypse started. So her mom got pregnant deep into the apocalypse,
Okay. Okay.
like years, right?
Right.
I believe 6 years, if my math is correct.
Sure. Yeah.
I'm not saying it is. Anyway, yeah. So zombie busts through the door. She has to kill it, and like while she's giving birth, it's this crazy scene. And the whole time, I'm like, man, where did they find someone who sounds so much like Ellie? Like, what is going? This is amazing casting. Wow. And then after the episode, they're like, this is Ashley Johnson. She plays Ellie in Last of Us Part 1 and Part 2. And I'm like, oh, yeah, okay. That explains everything. And it is so perfect. It is so good.
Yep.
Yeah. So she gives birth in about half a second. Like, she's all, oh, I killed the zombie. Plop, a baby is there. And I'm like, that is not how birth works at all.
Well, it's not how most birth works. If I saw on Reddit, so it must be true.
Okay.
A woman gave birth in a parking lot outside of a hospital because they just didn't make it in the door. It was just like, all right, I guess we're here, and then it's done. It was like a 20-minute labor. Like,
yes, but I mean, I don't know.
It's the exception, not the rule. You know.
I know, but it's still like a process. Like, to not get too disgusting, my mom's a labor and delivery nurse, so she always gave us these details, and we were like, Mom, but now I know everything.
Right.
So, like, everything dilates down there so that a baby's head can fit through, right? And that takes time. So in those instances where you get to the hospital and the baby's born, like, the baby's head is pushing, like, we're dilating, we're going through the process, we're pushing, and then the baby's born at the hospital. It's not like it really seemed to me like she went from not pushing to baby born, and it's like that's not Nope. I don't think that's how that ever works.
That's what was happening when she was running through the woods.
She was pushing while she was sprinting for her life through the woods. Again, having been involved in 3 births, because I've got 3 kids, and let me tell you, when my ex was pushing, she was not in the mood or state to be running through the woods.
She didn't do one of those new hipster treadmill births.
No, and again, I don't think they have them sprinting on that treadmill. Maybe they do. I have never seen one of those.
Well, look, they went with a shorter runtime for the episode. They can't be completely accurate with the mechanics of childbirth.
Well, fine. I mean, what they needed to do is they needed her to get bit, the baby to be born, her to realize she's been bit, her baby's born, her baby is connected to her. Oh shit! And then cut the umbilical cord. They needed that to happen, so that's why the baby was born so fast.
Is that scene supposed to set up the why she's immune?
Billion%.
Okay, it's not just like the tragic backstory of her mother. It's
that.
But it's supposed to play it into the if you just get pregnant and then get bit, which seems counterintuitive to spreading immunity because you gain one and lose one. Human population. I don't know. I feel like giving mechanics of why someone is immune is a little too peer behind the curtains of how the universe works. I think I like it better having not finished either of the games, just knowing that Ellie was immune because she was, just like a random quirk of genetics, something that happens literally all the time with a population of 8 billion people. Some people are just better suited to deal with things.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. And that's it. The games never go into it. They never postulate why she's immune. That's it.
Not even the DLC where they give her background? Because I assumed this scene was cut from that.
No, the DLC is entirely the episode where Ellie and Riley go to the mall.
I don't know who Riley is.
It is Ellie's girlfriend.
Fair enough.
Did we not talk about this episode?
I think you
episode 6. It's just entirely Ellie and Riley back in the Boston QZ in the mall hanging out.
I mean, I think we talked about it off stream, but
okay.
I don't know what happens in the DLC explicitly.
So. That's it. It's one day. They're in the mall, they hang out, they have a great time, they kiss, and then an infected shows up, bites both of them.
Telling me that even in Apocalypse, teens go to the mall on a date?
I mean, yeah, I guess so.
But there can't be more things to do in an apocalypse. Malls are shutting down across America is what I've heard. So it's got to be pretty similar to today, and I wouldn't go today.
Well, but it's post-apocalyptic America. There's nothing fun to do anywhere. Exploring an old, abandoned, 20-year-old decrepit mall is okay, I guess. Anyway, so point is, they both get bit. Riley's let's just lose our minds together. It sucks, but that's what life is now, And then she goes nuts, and Ellie doesn't, and Ellie has to kill her. It's rough.
Oh, man.
It's rough times. And that's when Ellie finds out that she's immune, but she doesn't know why. Yeah.
Right. Yeah. That gives me serious flashbacks to The Last Airbender, where Sokka is just my girlfriend became the moon,
Right.
It's oh, of all the things your first partner could do to you, turn into a zombie and try to kill you. Oh, it's rough.
Yeah, I think I'd prefer Moon over having to brutally murder my now zombified partner. Ugh.
I mean, I think they're just as bad as each other, right? Every night you're gonna look up at the moon and be But now, in a zombie apocalypse, Ellie, every time she looks at a zombie, is going to be oh, right, remember that girlfriend I had to kill? Every time. I think they're just as bad.
They're both pretty bad. I agree.
Yeah.
So anyway, yeah, in the game's no interest. Game in part 2, same thing. It just never comes up. She's immune, but so what?
Yeah.
Yeah. So anyway, yeah. And I didn't need to have any kind of an explanation as to why Ellie's immune, but it was... I don't know. It's so perfect having Ashley Johnson play Ellie's mom in that scene. It's just it's wonderful. And especially, I listened to the podcast with Craig Mazin and Druckmann that they do after every episode, and they had Ashley Johnson on with them.
Oh, nice.
And Neil Druckmann was like, Ellie was hugely informed by Ashley when we were making part 1. Like, she was much quieter when I initially conceived her. Ashley really brought in the fucking awesome aspect of Ellie, where she's swearing all the time and she's super high energy and she has no respect for authority, because that's who Ashley is. And so, yeah, just the fact that she figuratively, gave birth to Ellie, creating the character in part 1, and then literally does it in the show is just like, chef's kiss. It's wonderful.
Right. It's like poetry. It rhymes, George Lucas.
Yes.
Yeah.
Like poetry. It rhymes.
Except way better.
Way better than anything George has ever written in his entire life.
Right. Yeah. It's just interesting that to hear the writer say, I wrote this character, we brought in a voice actor to basically mocap it and completely change the entire character, and midway through production of the game, we just rolled with it,
I mean, not midway. Like, they brought her in pretty early, I think. They were looking for voice actors for Ellie, like, pretty early in the process.
Fair enough.
Anyway, I don't think they were halfway done with it, and then they retconned it.
Oh, no, I don't think so at all.
Okay.
But it's just a weird vibe to be like, yeah, let's just totally rewrite this character that I had in mind.
Yeah.
Essentially. Like, not totally, but,
in a lot of ways.
Yeah.
So anyway, Marlene's there. She's our Firefly from episode 1, and it turns out that she and Ellie's mom were friends, like, forever. Like, I guess predating Apocalypse.
Fair enough.
And she's like, I need you to make sure my baby is safe, and I need you to shoot me in the head. She's like, so these are big things you're asking me. But she does. She takes Ellie, she kills her mom, and then dumps Ellie in Fedra military school, which is like, interesting. Like, for a Firefly to do that is a really interesting move.
Because the Fireflies are opposed to the government, aren't they?
Yes. Yeah. The Fireflies want to destroy Fedra and set up a completely new government because they hate how Fedra's running things.
Yeah.
But I guess she was like, well, I mean, the life of a Firefly is basically the life of a terrorist. So it's super dangerous all the time. And if she's being protected by the power right now because they're raising her to be part of the system, then that's probably the best place for her. So,
right.
Yeah. Anywho, so they spend like 10 minutes of the 43 minutes doing this thing, which again is beautiful, but we didn't need it. Anyway. So the episode starts off with Ellie being traumatized from the last episode where she almost gets raped and cleaves a man in the face 87 times with a butcher knife. So that's exciting. She's like quiet. She's withdrawn. She's not the same character she's been throughout the rest of the season. And Joel's like, oh, this is bad. Like, this is not great. Like, is she always going to be like this? I'm not a therapist. I don't know what to do. So she's trying to drag her out of whatever's going on here. He's like, we could find a guitar. I found Boggle, like, rummaging through this old trailer that we're scrounging for stuff, and I found some Chef Boyardee ravioli that's 27 years old and
probably still good.
I don't know if canned food lasts that long. Hang on a second. How long? Because canned food lasts.
Oh, it's got to like vary depending on what's in it, right?
Yeah, like I think things like pineapple, like acidic type foods, like tomatoes, will eat through the cans more than other stuff does. And that's what ravioli is. It's tomato sauce. Yeah, high acidic canned foods like tomatoes, fruits, and pickled foods have shorter shelf lives, according to ReadersDigest.com. But how long? Okay, so if you open a can of food that's past its expiration date and it looks and smells fine, it probably is. Neat. So it said, this is ridiculous. Can canned food last 20 years? The USDA says most shelf-stable foods are safe indefinitely. All right, so maybe it's fine.
Maybe.
Yeah, fair enough. So anyway, he's trying to drag her out. She's not interested. And then they're in Salt Lake. And the scene, when they announced the HBO show, the one thing I said was, I need the giraffe scene in the show.
Yeah.
For me, it was, I don't know, just something about it. It's the most beautiful scene in the show. It's just the most affecting for some reason. I can't really explain it. But if you ask anyone who's played part 1, they're going to mention the giraffes at some point.
Right.
So, yeah. So basically, there are giraffes that are roaming around an abandoned baseball field in Salt Lake City, and it snows like a lot here, and I don't know the giraffes are suited for that kind of climate. But maybe they migrated south for the winters and came back in the summers. Who knows?
Right.
Yeah. Anyway, so then like there's a giraffe just kind of feeding on just a tree that sprouted up, and they're, Joel and Ellie are in this building, so they're a couple stories up, and they're right at head level with the giraffe, and Joel's like, well, let's try to feed it. So like he grabs some stuff off the tree and they feed it, and Ellie feeds it, and she laughs like for the first time all episode, and just like comes out of her shell a little bit there. And so Joel's like, okay, I think she's probably going to be fine at this point.
I saw a lot of people talking on Twitter about the giraffes. Mainly people being like, oh my god, that giraffe looked like shit. And then other people being like, here's behind the scenes. The giraffe was real. Everything else was CGI.
Right. That was crazy to me. I saw so many people being like, man, that CGI was bad. It's a real giraffe. Like, what is going on? How are we at a point with CGI that we think we see CGI in real stuff? I don't get it. I didn't think it looked like CGI, but I'm not good at spotting that stuff anyway. So, blah, blah. And this was one of the things. So it's a cutscene in the game. You don't get to control anything about like that 5-minute stretch. And Mazin and Druckmann were like, we couldn't touch that. Like I know we're adapting for a TV show here, but that was such a perfect scene. We just had them do exactly what the characters do in the game, and it just works. So,
right.
Yeah, that was great.
So the zombies don't like attack any other living things like giraffes or dogs?
Yeah, you'd think the fungus wouldn't care what they're infecting, right?
Right.
Like a mammal host is a mammal host.
Right, but like also just like not even on an infection basis, but like 90% of the game's actual gameplay is sneaking around trying not to be spotted or make noise, because the infected things attack based on sight and sound. Of which wildlife makes and has.
Yeah, maybe the giraffes just stomp them. I don't know. Or giraffes, they kick them to death.
It's true. I did
so
hear.
The infected, they figured out, they're like, those are bad news. We're just not going to mess with those.
Okay.
I don't know. It's a good question. Yeah. So giraffe scene's beautiful and wonderful, and they nailed it. I was very happy about it. So Excellent. Then they get closer to the hospital, and fireflies are like, you're in our perimeter. We're going to knock you unconscious and drag you inside. It's like, oh, great stuff, fireflies. You can't be like, hello, travelers. No. We got to throw a grenade at them, knock them out, and then drag them. It's like, what? I don't know. Like, they really do. They do a lot of work in the show and the game to show you that like the fireflies aren't like super highly moral people. Like they will bomb Fedra sites and kill civilians who have nothing to do with Fedra to accomplish their goals, right? But at the same time, they're trying to fight this incredibly powerful, what they consider abusive power structure, and if you're going to fight with your gloves on the whole time, it's going to be tough to beat them, you know?
Right.
Yeah. So it's tough.
Yeah.
Anyway, it's just nice that Fedra's not all good or all bad, and the Fireflies aren't all good or all bad.
Right, yeah. Fireflies are the ones operating the hospital, right?
Yes.
Okay. Is there no Fedra operated hospital that they could have gone to that's trying to like solve the pandemic?
From what I remember from the game, Fedra's kind of given up.
Okay.
Like Fedra's whole goal right now is preventing the spread of the disease, setting up quarantine zones in major cities, and just, this is our new life. We live in quarantine zones now. It sucks, but at least our loved ones aren't turning into zombies.
Right.
And this is it forever. Enjoy.
Okay.
Whereas the Fireflies are like, that sucks. Let's fix the world. So they're trying to put some resources into changing it.
Okay.
Yeah.
I feel like if you go, hey, I'm immune, maybe people in power would be like, hey, we've got all these safe zones and resources. Let's maybe divert some of that. I don't know.
Maybe.
It is the problem with, like, you can't write for every contingency in a story. It's like, well, why don't they do this? Why don't they do that? Well, it's not the story.
Yeah.
But it's just weird that they would be operating a hospital and then be like, oh, there are people approaching, right? We want to help people in the long run by solving this problem and, freeing them from what we consider to be the authoritarian state or whatever. Let's throw grenades at them and knock them out and drag them inside.
Right. But I don't know. I mean, in a world where everybody will murder you at the drop of a hat, like for your sweater,
Yeah, but you could ask them to be like, hey, could you leave your guns in that bin over there? You can take them back on your way out. It's fine.
Yeah. Yeah. But I mean, I guess if you knock them out and bring them inside, you can talk to them then, and there's no risk to your people of getting shot in the face.
Yeah, I suppose. I don't know.
I think that's how they see it. I think you're right. I think it'd be easy to set up somebody on floor 3 that just looks for people coming and goes, hey, you want to come in? There's a box right there. Drop your guns in and come inside. Right? That's not hard.
Yeah, and I feel like if you throw grenades at people who are looking for you, you tend to put them on the wrong foot,
Yeah, they wake up and they're mad.
Because if the grenades don't knock them out, they're firing back.
Right. Yeah. I mean, what bothered me too is I don't remember how it goes down in the game exactly, but in the show, Joel and Ellie are like palling around. She's telling jokes from the joke book, and I'm like, you guys, it's the post-apocalyptic future. You can't ever be doing that. They get snuck up on because they're not even paying any attention at all. And I'm just like, all right, you guys, keep one eye out for dudes jumping out from behind trees and stuff.
They were on that giraffe high. They don't need to be looking out for people. They were in a good mood. They were happy. They were focused. They were in their lane. They were thriving. Leave them alone. Don't be a bully.
Yeah, fair. So yeah, I mean, it basically happens pretty much like it does in the game. Joel wakes up, Marlene's there, which is like, that's another weird thing the game and the show both does. So Marlene hires Joel to cart Ellie across the entire country from Boston to Seattle. Salt Lake City. Salt Lake City, which is 8,000 miles away. And then Joel shows up and Marlene's already there. And it's like, so you were coming here anyway. Why weren't you willing to take Ellie across the country yourself, crazy lady? Anyway.
Yeah.
Either way, she beats him there. Yeah.
That checks.
What are you looking at?
Oh no, I'm just like, yeah, that checks out. There's just like a plot continuity error there, where it's like, hey, babysit this person and take them across country while I go to the same place but faster.
Yeah. And I don't know. It's entirely possible that Marlene a week later was like, I should head out there for other reasons.
Mm-hmm.
And then they just moved faster than Joel and Ellie did.
Right.
I mean,
it's not impossible, but
it's not. But it is just weird that Marlene's there, and she's like, "Okay, cool. Thanks for bringing Ellie by. We're prepping her for surgery. Apparently, the doctors say that she's got a growth in her that gives off a chemical to where the cordyceps thinks that she's already one of them.
Okay.
So any cordyceps that enter her are like, oh, this has been taken over already. Neat." And they don't activate and they just die off.
Right.
And so Joel goes, okay, but doesn't cordyceps grow in the brain? And Marlene's like, yes. He's like, so what's your plan here? And she's like, look, it's for the greater good, okay? And he's like, no. And okay, let me just say, if you're Marlene, just be like, nope. Ellie will be totally fine. It turns out the growth is in her left foot. And she'll survive surgery and everything will be great.
I mean,
you didn't have this man. You are scared of this man.
you like, there are even more believable lies than that. Be like, yes, it is in the brain, but it's a small tumor. Like, that it can be safely removed. We used to do this all the time, remember? Brain surgery,
Yeah.
it's a thing. We were able to do it without lobotomizing people.
Yeah.
You know, what we would do is we would give them a anesthetic and then talk to them. We'd keep them awake because we'd cut into them. Oh, Ellie's asleep. Don't worry about that.
Right. Or just keep Joel unconscious until the surgery's over. And then, like, too bad. Sorry, man, you missed it. There's just no reason for her to have this conversation with him except the game needs to happen.
Right. We're in a hospital full of tranquilizers. We could have kept you drugged for like the next 4 days while we did this.
Yeah, easy.
Better wake him up and talk to him and tell him we're going to kill his new daughter.
Yeah. And in fairness, I don't think Marlene understands how much Joel cares about Ellie.
True.
Because at the start of the show, he's like, "You are cargo. I do not care about you as a person at all."
Right. That's true.
So maybe she assumed he wouldn't care. But then he really, really, really does.
Yeah. That's an excellent point. Yeah.
Yeah. So she's like, "All right, Fireflies, escort this man off the premises." And then he gets the jump on him and kills him. And he's in death mode because he's like, "Where is she?" And the dude's like, "I'm not telling you." And he's like, "All right, that was your chance." Bam, shot in the face. Like, there is no conversation here. There is no bargaining. He's just like, "I give you one chance and that's it. You're out." And so, yeah. So then he spends the next, I don't know, half an hour killing everybody in the hospital.
Solid.
It's done really well, I feel like, in the show.
I did see a clip of this, yeah.
Okay.
It's like muted and muffled. So it's kind of like
sad.
Yeah, sad music. It's like an adrenaline high where he's acting on impulse rather than like rational thought in the middle of a firefight. That kind of makes sense. No, I thought that was really well done from what I saw.
And it's notable too, he almost goes into this like fugue state where he's incredibly calm. Everybody else is like, "Dude with a gun!" Like, they're panicking, they're jumping over counters and stuff, and he's just like, "I'm the Terminator right now."
Right. I mean, they probably have. Better not make that joke. Never mind.
Okay.
You know what? I'll say it anyway. But I was going to say this hospital probably hasn't seen a public shooter since before the outbreak. So, but America. Anyway, you know, he eventually finds her, I assume.
Yeah. So he follows the signs for a pediatric surgery because he's like, that makes sense.
Sure.
And he finds her, and she's unconscious. They're about ready to cut into her. And he bursts in, and they immediately know who he is and why he's there. And so the doctor's like, "No, I won't let you take her." And he pulls a scalpel off the table, and it's like, "Dude,
I have a gun.
Did you hear the gunshots that started 10 minutes ago?
Right.
Do you think you're gonna do anything here, my guy?" And Joel's just like, "Nope," shoots him in the head, moves on. It's like, yeah, what did you think would happen? Yeah. So that's Abby's dad from part 2. Spoiler alert.
Fun fact: one of the nurses in the operating theater was Laura Bailey, who is Ashley Johnson's co-host on Critical Role and the voice of Abby from Last of Us. So,
yeah, that was super cool.
Throwing her a cameo as well.
She did voice acting for a couple of different characters in the video game, including one of those nurses.
Oh, really?
So when they did the show, Druckmann called her up and was like, "Hey, come back and do a
reprise your role as nurse number 3."
Right. You got a mask on. No one can tell it's you. Like, do it. Let's go. Yeah, she was into it.
Would you like to be in a cameo where no one will know it's you?
And you get to watch your character's dad die. Yeah.
So they're not saying that Nurse is Abby in like a retcon version? No. Oh, okay.
In part 2, it shows young Abby, and she's like 13, 12 when this happens.
Oh, okay.
So she's definitely not one of the nurses. In the game, you can kill the nurses if you want. You can kill the doctor. You can you can just wipe the nurses out. They're not a threat to you at all, and just be like, rampage. But the canon version of this is that she leaves the nurses alive, so they have someone to tell about what happened here today. Because if nobody survives this thing, then How does anyone find Joel later? Like, they need to.
I assume he signed in when he was welcomed politely to. Oh no, he was knocked unconscious and dragged inside.
Yeah. Yep. So he carries Ellie out. Marlene tries to stop him. She puts her gun down and she's like, look, she tries to appeal to his sense of like humanity. Like, look, she's important to me too, but her life is not worth more than the lives of everyone. And I don't know if this is her speech in the game, but in the show she makes an excellent point. She says, look, stupid, you can't protect her forever. This world that she was born into, she will get killed by raiders, she'll get torn apart by zombies, she'll get a cut that gets infected and she'll die. But if she can help us turn the world better again, you will save so many lives and improve the quality of life for everyone on Earth. True. And it's just like, if you damn us all to living in this hellhole for the rest of all time, she's gonna die too. And he's like, don't care, and shoots her. She's unarmed, and he shoots her. It's like, Joel.
Don't get me wrong, that's kind of a good point, but there's also no guarantee that killing her now will provide a cure to the world.
Right.
There's no guarantee of that. All you're doing is robbing a 13-year-old girl, or however old she is, 14, 15, of the rest of her life.
It's true. So, there are some doctor surgeon's notes that are recorded you can find in the hospital in the game. They basically say that Ellie's the only person they've ever found that's immune. They've done a ton of tests with people who are not infected, and they give them something and then infect them and see if it helps, and it doesn't ever.
Right.
And they've taken infected people and tried to like inject them with stuff to fix it, and it never fixes it. So they've tried a ton of things, but this is the first time they've gotten a subject that has cordyceps in them but is resisting it. So
I mean,
I know it's not a guarantee.
At least with like whatever scans that they had to work out that there was this thing in the brain, you at least have a better reference point from where to start with. It's not like bringing her here, x-raying her head has been a total waste of time if you then don't cut her open.
Yeah.
So, you're
right.
Again, the story has to happen. So.
Yes, it certainly does. So he's like, Marlene tries to appeal to his logic and his sense of being part of the human race. Of course, part of that's hilarious too, because we've watched this show and we've played this game and humanity sucks. Like, humans have tried to kill Joel 87 times in the game alone, and the past 20 years, I imagine, are not any better.
Right.
So, like, save these people, Joel.
Exactly. It's like, people will steal you for your sweater. If you let her live now, she'll spend the rest of her life fearing for lack of antibiotics and raiders and rapists and murderers, and please let us kill her to save those people.
Yeah. Let us save people like David in the last episode. And yeah, it's just like, Joel doesn't have the greatest worldview. I'm not sure this is...
Right.
This is awesome. Anyway, yeah. And so he kills her specifically because he hopes that if she's dead, no one will come after him. Because she's the one who really knows who he is.
Right. The nurses are NPCs. They don't count.
Right. Exactly.
Yeah.
Yep.
Totally do.
And so then my favorite part of the whole game, it immediately cuts from that scene to Joel driving just away. And you can't see Ellie, and you're like, did he leave? Did he change his mind? What happened? It's like, no, she's on the back seat. She's unconscious. It's like, oh, okay. He didn't have a complete about face off camera for some reason. So they're going back to Jackson, where Joel's brother is. This like the only good place in the entire game they ever visit, where there are no cannibals and no Fedra and no public hangings and stuff. So that's pretty good. And so he tells her, like, hey, you were unconscious. They were prepping you for surgery. Raiders attacked the hospital and they were killing everyone. And I had to get you out of there. We barely made it out.
Believable.
Well, not a bad story. Like, we've seen, raiders are a thing.
Raiders are a thing. It's a hospital. So, they've got to have supplies and things that raiders would want. So,
Yeah.
That checks out.
Exactly. But she sniffs that something's not quite right. So at the very end of the game, they're kind of hiking towards Jackson. They're a couple hours out. And just apropos of nothing, she just goes, like, swear to me. Like, swear to me that everything you told me about what happened is true. And he just straight up looks her in the eyes, doesn't look away, doesn't act fidgety. It's just like, I swear that's what happened. And then she takes a minute and goes, okay. And that's how the game ends. It's, oh my gosh, it's so perfect. And
Do credits roll in the TV show when that happens?
Yes.
Excellent.
Yeah, I mean, for the few things that they did change to adapt in the TV show, it's really nice that both Mazin and Druckmann recognize there are certain things that make this story and this game what it is. Do not mess with those things.
And
they didn't. And it's just like, way to go, guys. 2 thumbs up.
Excellent.
Yeah. So now, I mean, the debate's all over the internet. Like, did Joel do the right thing? It's like, that's the whole point of this game. That is the entire reason The Last of Us was huge when it came out and has been a point of discussion ever since. And there is no right answer to this thing. Druckmann said when they were doing beta playtesting for the game, they'd ask the players after they finished it, like, what do you think about what Joel did? Did what he do, was that right? And he said about 50% of the people who didn't have kids said yes, and 100% of the people who had kids said yes.
Well, as someone with kids, Falcon, what do you think? Did he do the right thing?
I mean, it's hard for me to fault him. Because like you said, it's no guarantee they find a cure. Everything's looking pretty good in Jackson. Like, I mean, they could have a pretty good life there. It's not like they have to be living on the road forever. And that's not the reality they need to deal with. And at an innate, like, biological, your brain is rewritten when you have kids way, you got to protect your kids, man. You got to do it. That's it. And yeah, I mean, I would fail. If I was in that situation, I would not have the gun prowess of Joel to do what he did.
Right.
But that would be my impulse, certainly. Yeah.
Right. Well, maybe, 15 years of living in an apocalypse would change you a little.
That's true. That's true. Maybe Joel before the outbreak wouldn't be capable of that, but Joel 20 years later totally was.
I really want to see a mod for The Last of Us where instead of Joel, it's you, and it's like Ellie being like, are those coffee shops? Did you ever go there? And just like, no.
No. Anywho, yeah, so it's great. I'm happy they nailed the ending. I figured they would. There's nothing in the first few episodes that made me worried about that at all. And as always, this is the easiest game to adapt to a television show in the history of games. It is basically a TV show. So that they nailed it shouldn't be impressive, but the history of video game adaptations to TV and movies is pretty bad. So
it's rocky, to say the least.
You got to give them props for it.
Yeah. Is it the best?
About the best video game adaptation to TV? I mean, Arcane?
Edge Runners?
Like, what?
Edge Runners?
Edge Runners? Yeah, also, we are in a golden age of insanely good video game adaptations to TV right now.
Joe?
I mean, I've got the quibbles with Last of Us where I wish there was more zombie stuff in it. I didn't need it to be the focus of the whole show because The Last of Us is more about the relationship of Joel and Ellie.
Right.
But I never felt like the zombies were really a major threat in the show.
Okay.
They do this thing where in the game, the mushroom stuff is giving off gas. If you inhale it, that's how it infects you. If you get bit by an infected, that infects you too. But they got rid of that. And then what they added instead is this thing that's not in the game where if you step on a tendril of cordyceps, it notifies the cordyceps hive that something's moving over there. and it
Okay.
will send a bunch of infected to come bum rush you.
Mm.
So I was like, that's cool. I wonder if that's going to come into play. And then it never does.
It is.
Like in episode 2, it happens, and you're like, oh no. And then it never comes up again. And it's like, so you set up this really cool thing and then just never went back to it. Why? Yeah.
Oh, that's unfortunate.
And in episode 2 as well, there's this whole, you got to sneak through the museum. There are clickers in there. They can't see you, but they can hear you. We got to be quiet. We got to distract them. All that gameplay stuff, and they never do it again. So they had some ideas for doing more stuff with the zombies, and I think they just got sucked into the human aspect of the story, which is a really important part, and I think a more important part than all the zombie stuff. But I was hoping there was more zombie stuff is all.
Right.
Yeah.
I mean, if they touched more on the zombie stuff, it might have really undersold. Underpinned the necessity of killing Ellie at the end to even a slim chance to try.
Yeah.
So I can definitely see a desire making sense there to do more zombie stuff.
And part of it too is that they wanted Joel's examples of violence to be emotionally affecting.
Mm-hmm.
And if he's just a zombie murdering machine through the entire show, then what he does at the hospital at the end isn't as like, whoa, right?
Yeah.
I think
agree.
That's how they felt about it anyway.
I can definitely see that, but I think there's a difference between like killing zombies and killing people.
Sure.
Especially a lot of people who are unarmed and cowering or putting down their guns.
The
hospital scene has people shooting back at times, but it's just like, I don't know. Would you feel the same way about a movie about a guy who takes a trip to an abattoir, sees all the cows that people eat, and be like, "Wow, we sure do kill a lot of cows," and then he shoots someone, and you're like, "Oh my god, you just shot a mother of 2. How could you? Oh no, I guess you better just leave." Right? You would be morally outraged that this person just murdered someone, right? I think it would still be affecting.
For sure. Yeah, I guess on a moral sense, but I guess it's more about the murderous capability of Joel. Like, if he can clear a room of 10 zombies without breaking a sweat, then it's like, okay, he can handle humans then, right?
Well, I mean, yeah, but just make more of the zombie stuff sneaking and, like, avoiding rather than fighting. Or if it is fighting, make it by, like, the skin of his teeth and only a couple, not, like, 50, you know?
Yeah. That is one thing that I remember most from the game is the concept, like, the feeling of bullet scarcity. You'll find, like, 2 bullets in a box somewhere in a cupboard, and you're like, oh my gosh, 2 bullets, thank you so much. And the rest of the time you're like throwing bricks and like trying to stab these things in the head from close distance, and it's real scary. So yeah, I was hoping for at least a couple scenes like that where it's a desperate situation. There are way too many zombies in this room. There's specifically towards the end of the game, there's a kind of a waterlogged tunnel you have to go through, and going through the water, which is like thigh high deep, is loud, and the zombies can hear it. It sucks. That whole tunnel is full of bad dudes, and you're like, I died so many times in there.
How do you eventually get through? Do you just have to like walk through the water in the right way to like not detect them, or you just got to be like, well, I saved every bullet in the game for this moment, you know?
That would have helped. I think if I'd had like 50 bullets, that would have been awesome, but no, I did not at that point. If I remember right, so there's a radius they can hear you when you're just on ground.
Okay.
In the water, it's just expanded. So you can move through the water if you keep track of where the zombies are, and all of them are outside of that radius of sound you're making.
Right.
So if you're careful that way, that works. You can also jump up onto cars that are in the tunnel and kind of use those to kind of like hop skip through it to a certain extent.
Right.
But I must have died in that thing 30 times. So just some kind of scene where it's like, this is way too many zombies to handle. We have to sneak through here. Here's how we do it. Yeah, I think that would have been awesome.
Fair enough. So they cut the tunnel scene with all the water entirely from the show?
Oh yeah.
Okay.
100%.
Yeah.
Yep.
Fair enough.
Yeah.
Fair enough.
So they did say they'd like to do more with the zombies in part 2. They recognize that maybe they didn't do as much as people wanted them to, as maybe they should have. And part 2's got a lot of it, man. This friggin' hotel. Oh, I'm just remembering. There's this hotel you have to get through. There's these sneaky ones, these quiet zombies that just like jump out of the shadows at you. Not cool. Hate that hotel. Ellie got murdered so many times in that hotel.
I think I saw somewhere that they were going to do a longer season for season 2 as well. Do you reckon they start with the inciting incident? And also, do you think they pull the same switcheroo they did with the game? Because all of the pre-game advertising was like, Joel and Ellie's new adventures, fun, happy times. Well, maybe not happy, but
they're together and it's awesome.
Yeah. It's like join, Pedro Pascal and Bella. I should learn her name.
Ramsey.
Bella Ramsey. I thought it was Ramsey, but I was like, no, that's a Game of Thrones character.
No, it's not.
Yeah.
It's
Ramsey
Mormont.
Snow. I didn't say it was her
right.
Game of Thrones character. I said it was a Game of Thrones character.
Ramsey Bolton is a character, yes.
Yes. Are they going to pretend that it's another season of them hiking across country?
Yeah.
Because I got to imagine all the people who loved the show, never played the game, are going to read a wiki at the very least,
I don't know. I've heard from a lot of people who are like, I don't know anything about the game and I love the show. I just can't be bothered. I don't know. I think if the advertising for season 2 is like the continuing adventures of Joel and Ellie, I think all the game players are going to be like, hey, no!
Not this again.
Not this again. They're just going to take to Twitter and just be like, they're lying to you. It's not true. Like, avoid the pain we went through because holy crap. Yeah.
Well, I mean, okay, so do they start with it or do they end like midway through? Do they end with Joel's fate?
No, I don't think so. The game starts with Joel and Ellie having a falling out because Ellie like figures out what actually happened. She's pissed at him and he's like, I mean, I get why you're mad, but it happened, so
right.
It's not great. I think we have to do that. I think we need to see some fallout between Joel and Ellie from her finding out what actually happened. And because that's part of the whole thing. Like, spoilers for Last of Us Part 2, but is anybody watching this?
Or
Swiss is here. Hey, the Swiss. Maybe. Anyway, spoiler alert. The point is that Joel and Ellie aren't in a good place. And then Joel gets his head caved in by a golf club. So there's no resolution there. Ellie feels bad for getting mad at him and guilty for him dying, like survivor's guilt stuff, right? And that's that's a lot of what fuels her murderous rampage to go to Seattle and get revenge.
Right.
So I think they have to do that. I don't think they have to spend a ton of time on it. But it's the natural continuation of the story of where part 1 ended. Is she... And that's a discussion they had on the podcast. Like Mason and Druckmann and Troy Baker's there too, who voices Joel in the game, and Ashley Johnson was there. So like all these major people who spent more time with the game than any of us. Mason asked the question, what do you think Ellie's okay there means? And they all had wildly different interpretations of what it meant. And that's the whole point, is she's not giving it away, but I really feel like she doesn't believe him, but she can't prove it. And she's just going to let that fester for a while, right?
Right.
And so it's going to come to a head at some point.
How does she really figure it out in the game? Do they explain that? Or does she just go, well, I just kind of don't buy it for reasons. Because I did watch you play for like the first couple hours, and it is a very short time between hey, Ellie, can we not fight? I just got some coffee from this trader and this caravan that wandered through. Would you like a cup? And she's like, no, I hate you. You pulled me out of there and should have let me die. And then he gets his head stuffed in like 40 minutes later. It's really not a lot of time. Like
it's really not.
It's some time. There is an aspect there that you need to set up, right? But it's not. It's not even an episode of TV.
No. And a lot of the time from the start of the game to that point, you're playing as Abby. So that's a bunch of time too.
True.
So it's not even all Joel and Ellie stuff. So it's not very much Joel and Ellie stuff. You're right.
I could definitely see them being like, hey, let's set the start of season 2 like 6 months and really have them like ramp up into a fight where somehow she figures it out in a more convincing way rather than just like, that quasi-believable story just doesn't sit right, you know? And I'm going to take it out on you for reasons.
Yeah. So what actually happens, and I'd forgotten this, she goes back to the hospital in Salt Lake City.
Oh, okay.
Check it out.
There's no raider bodies.
And there's some fireflies who are still hanging out there, and they tell her what happened. And she's like, that bastard.
Okay.
Yeah.
And why are the fireflies still hanging out there?
It's like 3 years later, she finally decides, I guess she's not really at a point to go back to Salt Lake from Wyoming by herself until she's older, but yeah. So 3 years later, she goes back, and the fireflies are there. I don't know. Like, it's still a hospital. I mean...
It's a hospital in the middle of nowhere. What supplies or resources could it have? How are they powering it? Where's like
generators? I assume.
I assume they have some. What are they feeding it?
Yeah.
Stale gas?
Maybe. Okay. You can actually. I'm trying to remember. I think I watched a video on this a few years ago. You can do a wood burning generator.
Okay. Yeah.
It's not crazy complicated. So maybe they set something up like that. I don't know. They're just chopping down trees.
Maybe.
But I mean, Joel didn't burn the hospital down. There's still resources in there. It's still fairly intact, right? Like it's not completely falling apart. Anyway.
I feel like in an apocalypse, utilities like hospitals degrade very quickly. Mainly because raiders are a big reason. Deaths of people who can functionally run them, you know, and then if you get, you know, a decade or so into the apocalypse and Pedro Pascal kills 99% of all your staff, I feel like you kind of let that investment go, right? You pack up what you can and you leave.
I don't know. I mean, he's not coming back. Like, he got what he wanted.
Right, but who, like, I assume that if you're trying to cure the world's problems, you have all your eggs in one basket. Like, all of your best and brightest doctors working on it already. Who do you then send to run it? How do you stock it?
Yeah, I mean, they showed up, and that day, they prepped for the surgery. There's no way they knew when Joel and Ellie were coming.
Right.
They didn't have time to send out a call to be like, all the best doctors we've got out there, like, come to Salt Lake. Let's get this thing done. So I think there are other doctors as part of the Firefly organization, would be my guess. And they're like, we have a job opening. Previous doctor got shot in the head by a crazy man.
Right. They posted it on LinkedIn, you know.
Yeah.
Trying to get people to come around. Yeah.
Please come fill this position. It'd be great.
I don't know. Maybe I'm just vastly underestimating the size of the Firefly organization, where it's, you know, capable of running multiple hospitals, and they're like, okay, one outpost went down, but we'll seed a little from all of the surrounding ones, and, you know, get it back up and running, you know.
So they've got a really strong presence in Boston. They're in Pittsburgh, they're in Salt Lake City, and in part 2, they've got a massive compound in Seattle with like what feels like at least a couple 300 people there.
Okay.
So I don't know. They've got strength on some level.
Right.
Yeah. Anyway, point is, yeah, I think part 2 is going to do Joel and Ellie are in Jackson. It's nice. Joel's getting older. Ellie's getting older. Ellie just got back from going to Salt Lake City and found out what actually happened, and she's pissed. There's a little Ellie and Dina are in a relationship going on. There's some homophobia in this show, in the game, that the game is very quick to be like, this is bad. It's like, yes, thank you, game, we get it.
I can't wait to see all the tweets about how the new Last of Us show is going woke and now it's terrible.
Right. It's like, did you ever play the games? Probably not, honestly. Yeah. If you're tweeting about this. Yeah.
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 Well, I look forward to it. I look forward to hearing other people enjoying it rather than actually watching it myself. Mainly because I don't have HBO, but I'll get to it eventually.
Yeah, that's fair. I'm just thinking about part 2 and how much stuff there is. And I mean, I don't think there's a whole lot more in there story-wise than there is in part 1. But if they want to take more time with the characters, I'm okay with that. That is definitely something.
Who do you cast for Abby?
Oh. No idea.
No idea?
None whatsoever. Okay, so is Abby trans in the game? It's really hinted that she is, but I don't think she is.
I don't know that she is. I hadn't heard any of that.
Google said she's not. Okay. She's just kind of transcoded. I don't know.
She's just kind of buff, is what I hear. And what I've seen.
Huge. She's got really strong arms.
Yeah.
Muscly arms.
Okay.
Anyway, okay. I was just wondering because there would be a movement if she was trans to cast a trans actress to play her, right?
Right.
But since she's not, then that opens it up to some more options. I don't even know, man. Who should play Abby in The Last of Us? Internet says all these terrible, terrible clickbait websites that are horrible, and I hate them all.
Right.
Because those, this website says Shannon Barry from The Wild. Sure, I don't know who she is.
I don't know who that is.
Florence Pugh. Holy crap. She's too likable, I think. Like, the whole point of part 2 is that you're supposed to hate Abby for killing Joel.
Right.
And then you're supposed to play her for 17 hours and realize that she's not a monster and that, she's as human as Ellie is.
Right.
But I don't know that she's ever like a likable, charismatic human being.
She's never the life of the party.
No. And Florence Pugh just steals every scene and everything she's ever been in. So I don't think that would work. Chloe Grace Moretz. Okay. I think we've talked about her on the pod before.
We have. I've seen her in stuff.
I think she's too small.
She's pretty small.
Yeah. I think she could do it though, but I just think she's like 5'6" or something, and Abby's like.
Well, I mean, so's Tom Cruise.
I know.
Short actors are everywhere. You can make them look bigger.
I know, but when he plays Jack Reacher, I can't do it. Sorry, I'm out.
They should get the guy who plays the new Jack Reacher to do it.
Ooh,
have him play Abby.
Hilarious. Just a dude. Okay. How about this one? Amber Midthunder. She plays the Native American main character in the latest, in the Prey movie.
In the Prey movie?
The Predator movie.
Oh.
Yeah. Where Predator goes back to like Native American times.
Oh,
for some reason.
Sure.
Yeah.
I'm looking at her filmography. I don't think I've seen anything she's in.
Me neither.
She's gonna play.
But apparently, she's really good at being like strong, physical. Like that's the kind of character you want, right?
Right. Apparently, this lady's going to be in the Last Airbender movie.
In the what?
The new live-action Avatar: The Last Airbender movie.
Oh, who's she gonna be?
Princess Yue.
Oh, she's Moon Girlfriend.
Yeah.
All right.
Which, sure.
No. Yeah, whatever. Anya Taylor-Joy, no. She's like a tiny wisp of a person. She could never do Abby. That's ridiculous.
So what about oh god, I can't remember her name. The Daenerys.
Same thing, too small.
She's a little short, but I think she could like buff up and would look fine.
How tall is Emilia Clarke?
Here's the problem. I don't tend not to know how
5'2".
tall people.
She's tiny.
Okay, sure. I mean, get us some shoes. Like, it's fine. Okay. Tall actresses. Google, tell me. Daisy Ridley. 1.7 meters.
Ooh. I don't know what that is in freedom units.
That's 6 feet, I think, ish.
Daisy Ridley is 6 feet?
No, 5'5".
No way. That's not even close to 6 feet.
It's halfway.
Almost. Jodie Comer, no. Again, Jodie Comer, too charismatic. Maisie Williams, no. She's Julia Garner, again, too small. Sorry, go ahead. I'm going too fast.
Oh, no. I was going to say Maisie Williams is even smaller than everyone else.
Yeah.
Gwendolyn Christie. I think she could do it. She's tall. She's bloody tall.
She's very strong too. Like, she fights the Hound in the Game of Thrones, and I bought it. I was like, yes, she's doing this.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
I think she might be too old, but I don't know. I'd be willing to see how that works out.
How old is she?
Put her on the list.
She's born in 78. She might be too old. She's 44.
Yeah, I think she's too old to be Abby.
Yeah.
Yeah, everyone keeps suggesting these like tiny wisps of actresses who are 5'2" and 100 pounds, and it's like, come on.
Well, that's the problem. A lot of actresses are typically shorter than most men, I would imagine.
Yes.
It's kind of the trend.
True fact. A lot of people are in on Shannon Barry.
Yeah, I saw that as well.
I'm okay with that, I think.
I mean, I wouldn't hate it.
Right. And again, casting is not everything.
No.
I mean, the Heath Ledger as Joker is the ultimate example of this, where it makes no sense, and it was the greatest thing in the entire world. So I never want to be like, this character would never work to play, or this actor would never work to play this character. Because, you could think that, and it totally works out in the end.
Mm-hmm. For sure.
Ronda Rousey.
I think we found the same article. Yeah. I mean, it would be a totally perfect match, except for the fact that Ronda Rousey can't act worth a damn.
Right. And she's been given chances too. Definitely. Okay, so there's some options here.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, and it's a tough job too, because again, you show up, you murder Joel, who is Pedro Pascal, and everybody loves, and then you got to make the audience decide you're not a monster. Good luck with that.
Right.
Yeah. Maybe Florence Pugh would be able to pull that off, though. Maybe she can be unlikable for like 20 minutes and then super likable for the rest of the game.
Maybe.
Yeah.
Maybe.
Anyway. Yeah, they're working on it.
Maybe they should just get Laura Bailey. Get Laura Bailey to do it. I don't know how tall she is.
Yeah, right. And she's 41.
Yeah, 1.6 meters.
Yeah, she's 5'5". I don't know. Because here's the thing.
Mm.
In the game, I don't know. I don't know if this is important to the story at all, but the fact that Abby is bigger than Ellie
Mm-hmm.
kind of, I don't know. It just changes the dynamic between them in a
That's a physical
specific way.
presence to it rather than just an emotional one. It's like
Yeah.
she's literally an obstacle that Ellie can't overcome, like literally in just like a brawl. Like if you were to look at
Yeah.
them, you would not put money down on Ellie.
Right.
It's intimidating for her. You're supposed to be intimidated.
It is. And I think part of that there too is that Ellie's better at killing people. Like she's better with weapons than Abby is.
Mm-hmm.
So that kind of evens out their whole dynamic to where, yeah, if this is just a straight boxing match, Abby probably wins.
Right.
But Ellie's better with knives and like guns and bows and arrows and stuff.
Mm-hmm.
Anyway. So I guess my point is, if Bella Ramsey, I mean, obviously Bella Ramsey's playing Ellie in part 2. So we just need someone who's bigger than Bella Ramsey. That actually helps a lot.
How tall is Bella Ramsey?
She is not. She's playing a 14-year-old. She's not that big.
No. I should probably add in height if I wanted to know that information.
5'1". Yeah.
Oh,
she's
yeah.
tiny. So we could totally do like a 5'5" actress and have it work for Abby, because all that matters is that relative size, I think.
Right. And then you get like camera trickery in there. I think you can make that work.
Okay. Well, that's nice. I feel better about that then.
I don't know. How tall is Pedro Pascal while we're at it? 1.8. Okay. So, in the game, is Abby an equal height to Pedro when she's like clubbing him in? Like, do we know where they're supposed to be?
I mean, he's on the ground a lot.
Yeah, I mean, he's on his knees, yes. But like, if he's on his knees and still comes up to like her chest, you know?
Yeah.
Because it won't be the same thing if she's supposed to be like still shorter than him, but is taller in the movie, in TV show, or other way around, or whatever.
The internet says that Abby is 5'8" or like 5'9", somewhere around there.
Oh, okay.
And Joel's like 5'11", so he's got her beat, but not by a lot.
Okay. Oh. Pedro Pascal is 5'11", so.
Yeah. Man, people still really hate Abby. The game tried its hardest. To be like, Ellie and Abby are not that different, and a bunch of gamers were like, "Yes, they are. Shut up."
Wow, one's immune to zombies, so they're very different.
True fact. I wonder how many people just stopped playing after Joel gets his head beat in.
Is the game on Steam? Because
yeah,
you could look at the Steam global stats for whoever has like what percent of achievements got the first achievement after that point. And if it's like 98% of players watched him get his head served in, and then 64% of players woke up the next day. No, even just the next story beat achievement.
If I mean, I don't know if they had a way to do that.
Depends on. You sure this was on?
Wait,
Last of Us Part 2 isn't on Steam. You liar.
No, where is it?
It's on PlayStation.
Oh, that's right. I connected it to my PlayStation and my monitor to do the Twitch thing.
Yeah.
I forgot about that. Achievements, Last of Us Part 2. There's gotta be a global. Yeah. Here we go. So right here, I'll give you the link so we can have it.
Yep.
Okay, so it's got a list of all the achievements.
Is there a way to sort by percentage gotten?
It's Sony, so no.
Ugh. Complete the story is 76%, so
It's pretty high.
That is pretty high.
And the rest of these are like stupid find all the coins, find all the workbenches,
right?
Find all the weapons. Like these aren't story achievements at all.
No, but there is like learn a player upgrade or upgrade a weapon, which can't be too far into the game. Right. And that's at 94%. So that's already a 20% drop off, 22% drop off.
Yeah. A 76% completion rate is massive.
Mm-hmm. Complete the story with any permadeath setting, 20%.
That's pretty high too.
Uh-huh. Yeah, Sarah, they didn't do story-based achievements by the looks of it. But okay.
Not at all. No.
Nope.
That's all right.
Well, that gives us roughly an idea that 20% of people watch Joel get his head stoved in and then stop playing.
Possibly.
Before they got an upgrade. Or they finished the game without upgrading anything. Or even finding a workbench by the looks of these achievements.
Yeah. Yeah, that's tough.
Yep. Yep. Nope. Fair enough.
Yeah, I am curious about how many people are going to get into season 2 and then be like, they killed Joel and just like riot on Twitter.
Right.
Like somehow these people will totally avoid that spoiler.
You know, we'll have to see. Wait and see.
Yeah. There's going to be at least one person that happens to.
Oh, for sure. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. They're going to be complaining that the golf club was CGI, and people will be like, no, really, it was a real CGI, but a CGI Pedro Pascal. Yeah. Brain. Yes. I'm predicting it now. You watch.
And I don't think I've made this point before, but not in this podcast. I just want to say, as emotionally scarring as it is to watch Joel get his head beaten in by golf clubs, it makes all of the sense in the world in this story, because he killed a lot of people that had sons and daughters and spouses and partners and friends, and one of those people is going to come back at you for revenge at some point.
I flip a coin on that, whether or not it makes sense.
Okay.
Because like traveling across country to find a man, and all you have to go on is like the name Joel and roughly a location, maybe.
Like a rough description of what he looks like, kind
right.
of wearing a green shirt. Yeah.
Right. I feel like that's not a lot of hope to give someone who's looking for revenge. It's like, I know he might be in this direction. I'm just going to hit every settlement asking for Joel. You know? And like, I could imagine a parallel universe where Abby is trucking across country and has killed 6 Joels on the way to Jackson, you know?
I mean, it's not the whole country. Seattle to Jackson, Wyoming is like a fourth of the country. But yeah, it's a huge chunk of ground.
Right, but when you when you realistically don't have access to vehicles because all the gasoline is stale, right?
Yeah.
Even if the game and the show wants to hand wave that away, that's fine.
Right.
When you then have to trudge across like winters without heating, because you can only whatever you can burn is the heat you've got, or you have to avoid all of the zombies in the world and all of the raiders, you know, and the people who want to stab you for your sweater or whatever it is you've got burning. I feel like it's a whole order of magnitude to be like, is this worth it? You know, like.
You're not wrong. I mean, so Abby brings like a team with her. She doesn't solo this thing.
Right.
And yeah, there are a couple of points where the team's like, it is winter. This sucks. You haven't found your guy. Like, you want to go home. So there's definitely a bunch of that going on.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I just feel like to set out on that journey, you need a couple more assurances than like he's like so high, has kind of a beard, he's really good with guns, and his name's Joel, you know.
Yeah.
And is probably hanging out with this girl named Ellie. But I mean,
Right.
again, Ellie goes back to the hospital, and people will go, "Oh, you're the Ellie chick. She like Joel murdered a bunch of us." And he's like, "Do you know where Joel is now?" And she's like, "Oh, I'm staying at Jackson." You know, and like, oh, and then they're like sending a letter back or whatever. You know, I'm not saying it's impossible. I find it incontrollable. You know, that somebody would undertake this mission. You know.
Yeah. No, that's fair concerns for sure.
Yeah.
I don't remember. Hang on a second. No. Oh, it was Tommy's fault.
It was Tommy's fault. Oh, because they were on patrol or whatever, and like Tommy was like, "Let's help these people." Oh yeah, that's Joel over there. Is that vaguely what happened?
Hang on. It says, blah, blah, blah. Young Abby overhears her father and Marlene discussing Ellie's surgery. Marlene says that she's going to tell Joel, and the Fireflies are familiar with Joel by name, presumably knowing from Marlene that he is Tommy's brother. Tommy's a Firefly. Joel's become infamous.
So hold on. If a young Abby overhears her dad chatting about like we're prepping Ellie for surgery, that means she was in the hospital at the time. She would know what he looks like if she saw him.
No. I don't know where she was, but she comes up after everyone's already dead.
Right, but they knocked him unconscious and dragged him in. Like, there's a kid running around a hospital. Nobody's watching that 24/7. She was like, who are the new people? Because she's been holed up in a hospital for like the last 6 days or whatever. Kids get bored and curious. There's a new person. Like, you know, it's I admit it's thin, but it's something.
It is. And so, okay, so what it says, what actually happened, what was like the linchpin for this whole thing is a former Firefly who had decided to go live in Jackson. Like, basically figures out that this is probably Joel who's living here. And goes back to the Fireflies to tell him. So that's where that information comes from. And then based on that information is why Abby and her friends are heading to Jackson.
Okay.
Yeah.
Again, this guy just goes, oh, this guy's named Joel.
He's named Joel, and he's really close with
to Ellie.
16-year-old named Ellie. Yeah.
Right.
Like, they didn't change their names. They probably should have changed their names.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Imagine.
Anywho, the story had to happen.
Yeah. All right.
Well, we are over time, so I gotta go.
Yeah.
But we can talk about buddy daddies and stuff next week. It'll be good.
Yeah. Tune in next week.
Yeah. Less Last of Us to talk about because it's over.
True facts.
Okay, good. So, yeah, that's going to be it from us. Thanks for joining us for another edition of the Falcon Paladin Hour, and specifically a Last of Us HBO series recap and analysis. You can support the podcast directly at patreon.com/Somicron and also at falconpaladin.store by buying merch. And you can watch these VODs either at twitch.tv/Somicron or youtube.com/@Somicron. Why do I always second guess myself there? Is that what it is?
Yeah, that's what it is. Yeah. No, you're right.
Yeah.
Good. Yeah.
Okay. Neat. Yep. Yeah. So all the VODs are there too. If you don't like Twitch, you just like YouTube, check it out. All right, sweet. So again, going to be it from us. Thanks for hanging out. And until next time, as always, you take care of yourself. Goodbye.
Bye.